The Legend of Zelda franchise is no stranger to introducing fun and interesting races that they just kinda never use again, like the Kokiri, the Magma, the Twili, and the Minish, just to name a few. But there's one race that I think has a good chance above all the other ones to be reintroduced in Breath of the Wild 2, and it may surprise you. Alright, so even though we don't know much of anything for sure about the sequel yet, outside of the fact that Link and Zelda are traveling through a series of underground tunnels and Ganondorf looks like he's concerningly dehydrated, I actually want to take this information, jump to a couple conclusions, and assume that there'll be a massive interconnected tunnel system throughout all of Hyrule, kind of like in Stranger Things Season 2. But unlike the one in Stranger Things, I think that this won't just be the home of monsters, but I think that right underneath Death Mountain, we'll be able to stumble across a mysterious little village of lava-eating Subrosians. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this quirky and very secretive tribe, they made their first and only appearance in the Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons, in which they lived in the underground world of Subrosia that lay underneath Holodrum, the continent in which Oracle of Seasons took place. But who's to say that the Subrosians underneath Holodrum are the only ones in existence? Perhaps there have always been Subrosians living far below Death Mountain, and we just never had the opportunity to discover them. After Breath of the Wild included both the Rito and the Zora, when the Rito technically were supposed to be what the Zora evolved into after the Great Flood, I feel as though this opens the Zelda team to use whatever characters and races they want regardless of the timeline, because clearly they just don't care about it. I think that the Subrosians would add an interesting dynamic into the game because while this title appears as though it will be a bit darker than its predecessor, the Subrosians could add that much needed level of fun and quirkiness that the Zelda series is known for. The Subrosians absolutely love participating in hot activities, which is really an understatement if I've ever heard one, because these activities can encompass everything from, kind of a normal synchronized dance routine to literally bathing in lava springs.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
I kind of like to think of them as being way more intense and strange versions of the Gorons, but by far the most interesting aspect of including them in Breath of the Wild sequel, in my opinion, would be the kind of unique trade system they had in Oracle of Seasons. Because they probably would have never had any contact with the surface world, they would have had no use for our hard-earned rupees. So that means they'd need their own system of trade, which would use a completely different form of currency that you'd have to collect to use their shops. But what could differentiate this system from that of the overworld is the option to trade your items for the goods sold by the Subrosians. Now let's be honest, this would be by no means a revolutionary trade system, but being able to trade your items for what you want and completely bypassing the need to use any form of currency could be a really fun and interesting way to not only see the reaction of someone who's lived underground their whole life that may have never seen an apple before, but also to have a place where you can't just sell all of the items in your inventory to get whatever you want. If something costs 25 apples, then you have to cough up 25 apples. I think that including all of these cool little details, in addition to potentially having a Zonai temple that's sunk into their territory that Link and Zelda need to explore, kind of as a callback to the Temple of Seasons, could be a really interesting way to introduce this tribe and their underground home to the wider Zelda fanbase. This reintroduction wouldn't just be to bring back a quirky and interesting race for a mainline Zelda game though. I think that this could also help to cross-promote another project that Nintendo are likely to begin developing when Link's Awakening Remake inevitably sells amazingly well. I think that Nintendo will include the Subrosians to not only make Breath of the Wild 2 more fun and interesting, but also to promote their remakes of the Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons games, which I believe will be made in the same fashion of Link's Awakening. I feel like it's probably a pretty safe bet that this will be their next move because Nintendo don't seem overly invested in creating a brand new 2D Zelda game. A Link Between Worlds was generally just a reimagining of A Link to the Past. Triforce Heroes was so bad. And Link's Awakening is a remake. If we follow the breadcrumbs, then the next 2D Zelda games in line are the Oracle games, which just don't have nearly the level of popularity that A Link to the Past and Link's Awakening do, so getting a bit of help from the main series would be incredibly helpful to them. In my opinion, the Oracle games are some of the most underrated in the entire franchise, and I genuinely believe that if I'm right and Nintendo could be teeing up to introduce the Sub-Roshans in a much more meaningful capacity, then it could stir the fanbase to begin giving these games the love that they really deserve, and maybe that could lead to a Switch remake. But that'll do it for today's video, guys. I want to pass the question off to you. Do you think that maybe it's a bit wishful thinking that they'll include the Sub-Roshans in the next game? Or do you think that there's a genuine possibility that they could be included in Breath of the Wild 2? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, why not liking this video? Why not subscribing to my channel? And why not even ringing that notification bell, because I post videos every single Saturday. As always, I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you in the next video. Later.